that's okay. Hello and welcome everybody to the AI webinar sponsored by EACA. My name is Jim Orm, Executive Director of the EACA, and I'm glad you're joining us online for an exciting event where we'll dive into the world of artificial intelligence. Our presenters are Jordan Walker and Hunter McKinley, co-founders of Backtrack and AI and events experts. Jordan and Hunter will cover the most practical and tactical ways to use the best AI tools of today. This 1 hour session will cover actionable strategies to save time, speed up processes, and recommend AI tools designed specifically for folks that work in the event industries, and particularly our EACA members who are ready to embrace the future of technology. So there'll be a Q&A session at the conclusion of Jordan and Hunter's presentation. If you have any questions that come up for you, please just post them in the Q&A box, and we'll get to them once the Q&A session begins. And with that, let me hand it over to Jordan and Hunter. Thanks, guys.
Perfect. Well, Jim, thank you so much for a great intro. And everybody, thank you for your time and attention this morning or afternoon, depending where you are in the world. We're excited to dive in here. Hunter and I have some slides we're going to run through. And like Jim mentioned, as we go along, if you have questions, if you have comments, anything like that, feel free just to drop them in the Q&A section, and we will address them kind of on an as-going basis or towards the end of the presentation here. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and get us going into the world of AI. Cool. Okay, great. So obviously we're here to talk about AI today, practical and tactical ways to use AI. And as you heard Hunter mention, for those of you who joined maybe a tad early there, we're going to be really getting into the weeds on this stuff. So not only what are the best tools, but what are the best ways to apply those tools for your day-to-day, right? I think we could all use a little extra help maybe on sales, marketing, automation, and these day-to-day tasks that just kind of get repetitive over time. So with that, we are going to get into the presentation. So first things first, just kind of our agenda. So we're going to be going through a quick introduction, go over the tools, LLMs, more specifically, some of our favorite tools, and then we'll kind of end with some resources and best tips and tricks for what we got going on here. And likewise, just so you all know who we are, like Jim so graciously mentioned, my name's Jordan, and this is Hunter. We are the co-founders of Backtrack. We are an AI event tech platform. We've raised $10 million in funding for our business. And if you all caught it, if you were early enough, like Hunter mentioned, we have known each other for the last 14 years. And we are college roommates. As you can see here on the left, we maybe had some oversized suits a little bit, but that's at the time we were launching Hunter's first business that we were really excited about. So we've known each other for 14 years, and through that time, we're also now tech advisors for the city of Jacksonville on the side. Like I mentioned, we've raised $10 million in startup funding for Backtrack for the business that we're working on currently. And we've been really fortunate to be featured in some really awesome press along the way. Forbes, Business Insider, TechCrunch, Wall Street Journal, and even industry-specific ones like Trade Show Executive, Exhibit City News, Trade Show News Network, and the list sort of goes on. So that's who we are. We've been working in the world of AI and technology for a long while now. So we've seen it evolve from this kind of little niche corner on the internet to now something that we're all using, day to day that we can't survive without, which is really cool. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Hunter to get into the first few slides here as we talk about AI.
Perfect. Great. Can you hear me? Am I good now?
Yeah, you sound awesome.
Awesome. So if anybody saw, I had to drop off real quick. My microphone said it wasn't working. So I'm glad to be here. We're going to actually start off with some fun stuff. So Jordan, if you don't mind, just going to the next screen. One of the first parts of this webinar, I just want to kick off is if you ever find yourself saying, there's too many tools, it's a little impractical to learn all of them, which ones do you use? We're not going to go through all of the tools. We're going to actually just jump into the ones that we use. But what we found is that it's actually way more easy to learn. It's way easier to learn AI if you're doing it in the fun way for the people that you care about the most, other than just trying to figure out a way to use it for business. So I'm going to give you some real concrete examples that we have made and then how we apply it to our business. So we're going to, if it seems like it's getting in the weeds a little bit, just stop us and feel free to put in a question into the chat. We're going to try to go a little fast here to try to make sure that we have enough time at the end, but that does not mean that you can't stop us and interact. So with that, let's jump right in. All right, so the first one, I have a niece. Her name is Araya, and she's about to turn 1 year old. And on the left-hand side, what you see right there is a bunny learning how to read, right? And so what we're doing is my wife and I, we're putting together a book for her. And the reason why I'm showing this to you is one is I want you to get an idea of what this is capable of doing. But two, there's nothing in the world that's going to help me figure out how to get the best. This tool is called Midjourney. How am I going to really sit down and spend the time and be up till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes, really figuring out the best prompt? How do you use an SREF, aka a style reference? How am I really going to figure this out? Because I need to use it for work. As you see on the right-hand side, that's actually another one that I made with Midjourney. So what I found was just building it for the people that I care about the most, in this case, my niece, I'm able to apply it at work. I have a quick example. I'm actually going to share my screen here for just a moment. Oh, I can't share my screen. I'm going to show you something even better. So if it's going to be a little hard to tell on this because of my blurriness, but I made limoncello. You don't really need to see it, but I made limoncello this Christmas. And for anybody who likes Christian Dior, like my wife, I made a print that looks just like it. And we made our own limoncello and we made a whole video about it, but everything was built with AI. I could never illustrate my own bunny. I could never make my own booth, and I could never, ever come up with a print this beautiful that looks like Christian Dior. But AI helped me get there. So with that being said, this tool is called Midjourney. If you go to midjourney.com, it's really easy. ChatGPT, we're going to get into it in just a moment, but ChatGPT just came out with their own version of it as well. So if that doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will, but this is just what I live for. So yeah, Jordan, let's get to the next one. Let's get more examples here. All right, this next one is called Lazy AI. There's a lot of different versions of this. So close your eyes for a second. Don't look at this screen. There's a lot of tools out there where you can do the same thing that you can do with images, like Midjourney, where you just type and it comes up with an image. This one is you can type and it comes up with code. I know it sounds crazy. It's not that complicated. On the left-hand side, we started off with a tweet. Someone tweeted out, chess is too easy. It should have the fog of war. I didn't really even know what that meant at the time. I built my own chess game on the left because I learned this was over Thanksgiving weekend, this past Thanksgiving, because I learned at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. while my wife is sleeping, how to like what are the nuances of chess? I'm such a net chess nerd. What are the nuances of chess and how can you really perfect using this tool called Lazy or Replit? There's a couple other ones. Now you come back to business on the right. I taught him obviously what I learned and we go back and forth. If you look on the right, this is a real example of learning the names of our prospects. That's a real image. Those four names on the right are real people. And he built a game for us to be able to learn the names of our customers. Thanks, Jordan. Learn the names of our customers as fast as possible. So that way, when we saw them at our next webinar, we could point them out by name and not have to pretend like we remembered it at the beginning of the day. And amazing, right? And these keep getting better and better. So Lazy is the one that we use, but there's other ones like I love Replit because I can make full apps from my phone. So Replit.ai and Lazy. I think it's called getlazy.ai.
Lazy.ai.
Yep.
And one thing I want to brag about Hunter for a second. The first time he showed this to me, he sends me a screenshot and I'm looking at it. I go, wait a second. Are you coding off your phone? He goes, no, man. It's even easier than that. I'm basically giving it the prompts that I want of the game that I want to build. It's doing all the coding for me. I'm just showing you. And to Hunter's point, like he just showed, he did this all just from his cell phone. So it's not like you need to have this insane setup or have a lot of technical knowledge in order to do so. He's just sending me screenshots off of his phone, which is how simple it is to use these tools. So yeah, I just want to brag about him for a second because it's that easy to get going and that easy to build right from your phone. So
and just for the room, because it sounds like we're tech experts. We're not. Like we've never developed anything. Jordan, have you ever written a line of code?
I would not call us developers.
I've never written a line of code. This is all what these two projects both were not written with any lines of code. It was all AI. It's amazing. All right. I can't share my screen. I had a little bit more prepared for the next one, I think, but that's quite okay.
Cool. Here, let's go to the next one real quick.
Midjourney. Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to the stuff later. I gave you a little bit of Midjourney at the beginning. We're gonna keep going. Perfect. All right. We talked about ChatGPT in the beginning of the call. I understand that there's some controversy around ChatGPT, but just bear with me for a second. They have a new feature out. I don't know exactly what it's called, but basically you can just take it and just prompt it with images. So think of that as like more of like the base layer. Mid-journey would be the pro. So if you've seen a lot of people been making a lot of themselves as like superheroes or action figures, they were probably using ChatGPT. I'm sure many of you have already tried it. One thing that might not be so obvious, and this is a real thing. This is my living room on the left. I said it was a simple prompt. It was like, I can't figure, this is a real problem. I can't figure out what to do with the right side there. Can you help me figure out what to put there? And it recreated my living room. As you see, it's not a perfect match, but it recreated my living room, redecorated, and it figured out that I could put a plant and a painting right there and it looked great. Now, I don't have a real life example yet because I actually just did this yesterday. But what I think is interesting is that you can think about any of your spaces for your customers, for your booth, for really anything. I guess I did it for my living room, but you can just see how easy it is to just paste in an image and recreate something that looks beautiful. Amazing. We're living in the future. It's
Right.
amazing. Let's get on to the next one. 'Cause we're almost out of here because we can get some real tactical stuff in. All right. So these are real images. We've been messing with this since 2022. So we're actually going on almost 6 years of this stuff being out. That's a real image that I made. I wanted an alien taking a selfie on the left. In the middle is one that we took a few months ago. This was actually with Midjourney. I believe 6.1, and now they're on 7. So it'd be even better now. So the challenge that I have for myself, and I think for the room, is where is this really all going? I think it can be really scary. I don't, we get a lot of questions about, is it going to replace jobs? Is it going to really replace designers? I think the answer is maybe, but I just want you to see this because for the first time in probably human history, people like me who can't draw, I can't code, all of a sudden I can create full products, launch them to the marketplace, and not need other people to get that done, which means that I can save money and hire people. Like let's say that book, let's say all of a sudden people really like that book and they want to give it to their kids. Um, and that just means for the first time in history, I can code an entire ebook, launch it, publish it to, let's say, Amazon. And now all of a sudden I need to start printing, and now I need to hire even more people. So I think I think that this whole industry is just being shaken up, and you all know that already. But I just wanted to give you tangible how quickly this is starting to really grow. I think Jordan, I have one more before I can hand it off to you, brother.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. All right. So this might not be as obvious to everybody, but obviously for us, we want to give you something really tactical. The clearer the prompt, the better you're going to be. On the next slide, Jordan, we have a real example of, again, I love my golden doodle. So the first one you'll see is just dog. The next one is a golden doodle puppy in a field. That's obvious. Let's make it more clear. But if you use Midjourney, which by the way, ChatGPT is going to come out with something very similar soon. If you use Midjourney, they have things called srefs. You don't really need to know what it is, just have it written down so you can Google it later. But it's basically just a style reference. The more details you can give it, the better the response is going to be. Otherwise, it's pretty much just going to guess. There's a lot more to this. If anybody has any Midjourney questions and creating illustrations and creating amazing images, including boots, we'll get to that at the end in the Q&A.
Cool. Real quick, actually, before we move on here, I saw in the chat there was one question. You think lazy AI is shutting down? I haven't heard or seen anything myself, but just to
Oh.
make the distinction for folks, there is a difference between is lazy.ai and then getlazy.ai. Those are two different products and companies. The one that we were referencing earlier in this deck is getlazy.ai, and I haven't seen anything that they're about them shutting down. That doesn't mean you're wrong or right. Just want to point that out to the audience if you're looking at the Q&A there. So just a general note. Okay, moving on. So we are transitioning a little bit into kind of just LLMs more broadly and prompt and generally. So something Hunter and I get asked a lot is I want to use AI, but I feel I get stuck. I don't know what to ask it. And we thought about this question too. And sometimes even for topics that we research, we don't know what to ask it or where to even start. Now, what's interesting, what Hunter and I were taught and what we learned is one of the most meta things that you can do imaginable, which is actually ask the LLM or ask the system itself for the prompt. So for example, Hunter and I, like we said, use fund and business. If I wanted to figure out hey, what's the best golf club for somebody who knows nothing about golfing, right? What should I even be asking you? You can ask ChatGPT, what should I be even asking you to learn better about golf and what club specifically I should use? ChatGPT will then give you a prompt back. You can take that prompt, you can copy and paste it, and then send that back to ChatGPT, and it will give you an appropriate answer based on what you're looking for. So the point here is, if you run into a topic, whether it's in the context of work, whether it's for fun, personal, or anything in between, you can ask these systems for prompts or for the best version of a prompt to give it, copy and paste it, give it right back, and then you will get what you're really looking for. So it's a little meta, we know, but it works extremely, extremely well. Okay. So with that, what is an LLM? So I think we've all maybe messed with ChatGPT and some of the others out there, but really at its core, what it is, it's called a large language model. So one thing to know about these large language models, or LLMs, is that they are merely predicting the next word based on previous patterns, and it does not always understand what it's saying. So it's just predicting and doing pattern recognition. It's not understanding the context necessarily. So just something for you to know as you continue to use these LLMs. And I'm sure everybody has had some sort of experience, to some extent at this point in time. But just know this kind of when you use them, that it's only predicting based on patterns, not understanding necessarily what it's spitting out back to you. What's also interesting about these LLMs is there's actually studies that have been done all over them, but the one that we want to focus on here for this slide is how to actually make sure you get an appropriate result or better results from your LLM. So I'm sure, and maybe we can put it in the chat, I'm sure everybody has had some experience where they talk to an LLM and they get some sort of answer that they're like, okay, that's not true, that's not correct. Maybe I'll pause for a second if you guys want to put it in the chat or put it in the Q&A. Has that happened to you folks before? Is that something that's you guys can resonate with? I'll give it a second or two to see there.
While we're waiting for him, I have a quick one. When I was asking it to do some research, it cited some sources, and then at the end, I realized that it just made up the sources. It hallucinated the sources completely, which obviously is not good.
Not great. Yeah. So Colleen, I see you said yep. I said somebody else said absolutely. Yeah. A lot of math calculus problems. Yeah. So it seems like we've all had this sort of experience with an LLM where we're getting an answer that's maybe a little crazy, maybe a little out there, and we're not entirely sure if we can use that answer. Now, what's interesting about this slide is a study was actually done, so there's real science behind this, where if you ask it to more or less double check its work, or the phrase is, it'll give you an answer and you say, are you sure about that? You'll actually see a 20% increase in performance from the LLM if you ask it to double check its work. So it'll present to you an answer. You say something to the effect of, hey, are you sure about that? It'll think for a minute and it'll go, actually, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I was wrong here. Let me go double check this, or let me fix this. So when you're prompting or when you're using it to do things that maybe require a little more technical analysis, we recommend that you kind of have that are you sure line in your back pocket or something to that effect, just to make sure that you're getting correct information, or to Hunter's point, it's not making up sources, or like somebody mentioned in the chat, doing incorrect math when you're trying to think about, maybe building a booth or anything like that. So point here, ask it for, to check its work, and you'll get a 20% increase in performance from your LLM. I'm going to cover one more slide real quick and then kind of give it back to Hunter there. So here's some of the ways that you can use an LLM. So what we hear a lot, generally speaking, from folks is you can use it for writing emails and know before you goes, and these things that are really copy or text heavy related. And I won't read everything off this slide here, but just to give you a rough idea of what it can do, it can make Excel formulas for you. It can be your customer support agent. It can modify CSV files, extract images, give you prompts. Or one of my favorites there is explaining topics to me like I'm 5. If there's something that I don't understand, I will ask it to explain it to me in terms of Legos or some everyday household object. And ChatGPT tends to do that very, very, very well. So again, I'll pause here for a second if you guys want to screenshot this. But this is some of the best ways that you can use an LLM that we found for our own lives, personally and professionally. We use these in our business day to day as well. So I'll wait 1 second if you want to grab a screenshot, and I'll toss it back over to Hunter for the next few slides.
Before you move on, while everyone's screenshotting this and writing some of this stuff down, because this is just gold, right? I know we use this. The last one there. I don't know if we've talked about this too much publicly, but it's kind of amazing how it has a Chat GPT. We focus a lot on Chat GPT. A lot of them have the same features, but Chat GPT, it has an actual memory of you. And so you can actually just ask it, what are some of my blind spots
Hmm.
based on our previous conversations? I believe that's the exact prompt. And it is absolutely amazing. I learned a lot about myself from what the AI is analyzing all of my conversations. It realized pretty quickly that I don't like when it yaps, as I call it. It talks way too much and it gives way too much information that I'm looking for. But yeah, try that when you all are off of this. All right.
What's the real quick, Hunter, just before we go on, what's the other fun one that I think folks can try? It was like pretend you're a CIA or CIA or FBI director, make a case on me or something to that effect, and it gave you a whole rundown of itself. I remember you texted me about it. But if
Yeah.
you guys are looking for fun ways to try the LLM, that's a fun prompt too. Pretend to be a FBI officer looking into you and tell you things about yourself. It's interesting. It's cool. Cool. All right, I'm gonna move on for you, Hunter.
A little scary, but that's okay. We'll move on. All right, custom GPTs. Now, here's something that people don't really necessarily know. If you do know about this, put it in the chat and say if you need something a little extra, more advanced to this. I think these are probably one of the most innovative things to ever come out since I've been in tech, which is at least 10 or 11 years. So the chat GPT has already fundamentally changed the game. There's so many LLMs out there like Sora and or whatever. There's a million of them now. But being able to create your own GPT, aka your own chatbot, to me has fundamentally changed the game from customer service to know before you goes information. I think it has the most potential for disruption. And the craziest thing is it only takes like maybe 5 minutes to set up. I did a webinar earlier today and I created a full chat bot for them live in less than 30 seconds. And Jordan, I don't know if we have it on the next slide where it actually breaks down. I was going to share my screen, so maybe we
Here,
can do
Hunter,
that.
I could stop sharing if you want to share.
It's disabled, but if everybody goes, I think it's just Chat GPT. If you look up Chat GPT GPTs, I don't want to spend too much. I don't want to dive too deep into this live. Chatgpt.com/GPTs. They could have named it something else. But anyway, you'll see here, um, essentially what you're doing is creating a curated chatbot. So it's leveraging the power of ChatGPT, but for only what you want it to be for. So like I'll just like close your eyes on this slide for just a second. I made one, not to be weird about it, but I just became cancer free. So I had a pretty interesting diet that I needed to follow there for a little while. So I made a GPT specifically with my diagnosis and to say what kind of foods that I was trying to eat. I'm a little overweight. I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight. And so I had to create full menu plans based off of what I can eat. My wife's allergic to chickpeas, so I wanted to also take that into account. So again, we're using it for the fun side to also bring it to business. How do you bring that to business? So for us, we have full customer service chatbots. That's great. Then to go a level deeper, because not everything's customer facing, especially when it comes to AI. You all know what I'm talking about there. So, for example, we have bylaws. We're a venture-backed company. We've raised about $10 million, as Jordan said. We have a huge responsibility to make sure we're following our bylaws. I don't want to sit there, and Jordan, I'm sure you don't either. We don't want to sit there and read through every line of the bylaws to go find out what we need to do when onboarding a new employee. That's just not something we need to do. So what we did is we downloaded that file, put it as a GPT in the GPT, and then we can ask it questions, and that information doesn't leave the GPT. There's an advanced setting. You can make sure that it doesn't train any other programs. So those are just some really practical ways. I already have listed everything off on this slide, so we can probably just move on. But just so you know, it doesn't require any code and it takes 5 minutes. Jordan actually, I mean, I think this is actually your thing because you made a pretty cool Dave Ramsey bot back in the day.
Yeah, I can talk about it just really quick. So one of the things that I did here, again, fun versus business first, is I said, well, let me just get some experience with making a GPT. Let me figure out how to do this. And Hunter and I, we both watched Dave Ramsey. We've been growing up watching Dave Ramsey. So I said, well, what if I made a GPT in the tone of Dave Ramsey? Let me just experiment making that. And so I was tinkering with it, setting it up, and now we have a GPT that Hunter and I have used personally that will talk in the tone of Dave Ramsey and give you financial advice based on only what Dave Ramsey would say. So, for example, custom GPT, right, or a regular GPT, ChatGPT, gives you financial advice from all the experts on the internet. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this from over here. Pull that down and then give you an answer based on all the available information. The Dave Ramsey GPT is only looking at Dave Ramsey's content and giving you advice based on that Dave Ramsey, based on who Dave Ramsey is. And even as specific as saying, when you ask it, for those of you who watch Dave Ramsey, hey Dave, how's it going? It'll say back to you, better than I deserve. What's up? And then you can, give it the question, right? So it's even really fun from that aspect. And then Hunter, maybe you can talk about the second one because I know you built that.
Actually, yeah, just in the interest of time, I think we should just show a real example that we made, which is we call it this the wording bot. And so what we did was we went around to hundreds of booths. This was at I believe it was Emerge Americas, and they have a lot of booths there. And so what we did was we created a wording helper. And so one of the problems that we noticed was that everybody had some folks had way too much signage, some had way too little. But some of the things that we notice is that we need to make sure that for our customers, we need to provide as much value as possible. Our tool, this isn't an infomercial about Backtrack, but our tool is to help exhibitors get more help the exhibitors make more money at shows. That's the shortest I can put it. But if the booth isn't really helping them and it's working against them, what if we just built a GPT for them? So what we did is we actually went around and found all the best booth let's call it taglines and all the worst ones and created a list. And I handed all that off to ChatGPT. And now this booth can help them make compelling display copy that other people might not even know exists. So it's really interesting once you start to think about what problems can I solve for my customers, what problems can I solve for my teammates, what problems can I solve for myself, and of course, I like to think about what problems can I solve for my family. But this is a really good example of just creating more value. And it took us less than an hour to make. The hard part was actually just walking around and finding the words and key phrases. The easy part was just copying and pasting that into GPT. If you all saw, I wish we had a screenshot here. If you all saw how easy it was to make one, it would probably blow your mind if you haven't heard of this. But let's move off of this just for now. But if you have any questions around this, please ask at the end.
Cool. Awesome. All right, automation. Do you want to talk about some of your automation stuff here for the next couple slides at least?
No, just go for it, man. Zapier's, I'm a Zapier nerd. Go for it.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're gonna get into some really fun stuff here on the automation side of things. So, AI and automation together can really help us automate or reduce the amount of tedious tasks that we have to do day to day. I'm sure there's all tedious tasks that make us all just cringe on the inside that are just so repetitive that we are hopefully looking to automate or maybe have AI and automation help us with. So with that, we're going to get into some of the tools that can help us do so. But generally speaking, we have some best practices that we want to cover first before we go into how to actually do those. So step number one that Hunter and I recommend here is do it, document it, and automate it. So what that means is do the task first, so do the process, understand it very, very, very well, and then document it out step by step. So whether that's pen and paper, in a Word document, Excel, wherever that needs to live, wherever you like to document things, document it step by step, because when you go to automate it, you have to account for every single step. And the way that I would imagine this is imagine Hunter for the first time is telling me how to go use a washer and dryer, right? He would need to tell me every single step in order to do so. So step one would be like, all right, Jordan, you need to get up from your chair, go walk to your washer, open it up, right? Do those sort of steps. So when you think about automating a process, you need to be that specific when you document it. And then from there, once it's documented, we can then get into the actual automation, creating the steps, connecting the tools, and doing everything in between. And a little bit off of playing off that slide is one of our favorite tools here called Zapier. And Zapier, for those of you that don't know, is essentially the duct tape of the internet. So this is taking all the tools that we know and love today, combining them into a single workflow. And that's the magic of Zapier on the back end. So here on the left, we have some example task and workflows that we just put together that maybe will give you some ideas for what you can automate or what you do want to automate. So maybe a website form is filled out. You want to send that off to sales. You can automate that process. Qualifying a call, Zap, you can automate that process. Maybe drafting a proposal, maybe sending it off to a customer, maybe, any of the steps in between, Zapier can sort of do so. And then here on the right is an actual example, an actual screenshot of Zapier and kind of a workflow that we put together and built. So as you can see, a lead comes in, then it notifies the rest of the team. We write a custom email using ChatGPT for that lead. Then the email gets drafted in Outlook, and then the email automatically gets sent out to that lead, which is great. So as you can see there, very quickly with just 5 easy steps, no manual intervention is needed. We have emails automatically being sent out to new prospects that are contextual and relevant to that prospect.
Jordan, let's just pause there for a second, in case we have questions. This is one of the most powerful things, because obviously we've been talking about tools all along with AI and like being able to create things. Zapier is the thing that connects them all. So if you have any questions, now's a really good time. What Jordan just showed you is real examples of what our customers have done. We have over 200 Zaps. They can be as simple as just a website, like we're one of that first one. It says website form is filled out, and then the next one is to reply to book. That's like the base layer. There's so many more layers to that, so I don't want to brush past this. So if you have any questions, let us know. I did notice that someone said I would try obot.ai for chatbots as more applications for APIs. I've never heard of Obot. I did notice that it was in beta. That doesn't mean it's not good. And then this also, I wanted to bring this up too, because Zapier is not the only one that does this. There's plenty of others. If this, then that is another one. We're just giving the tools that we use or our customers use every day. So if you find one that's better, go for it. The fact that you're even brainstorming better ones makes me really happy. All right. Capabilities of Zapier. I'll give you two other ones. Zapier is this massive, massive tool. There's a lot that it can do. It has about 6,000 apps that it works with, and they have a lot of different features in it. If you're just getting started, I would just focus on what is something that's really repetitive that you're just copying and pasting information over. That's the first thing I would focus on. I'll give you a real example that my wife's an event organizer, so I'll give you a real example. She used to manually copy and paste things over from, I believe it was from Eventbrite to Hoova. At the time, I still don't think that there's an integration that's native, but at the time, there's no way of integrating the two. So with Zapier, you can integrate the two. So when someone signs up with Eventbrite, it automatically registers them in Hoova. If you don't have Zapier, that's not possible. Some other things is any sort of like migrating from like one system to another. Zapier can do that too. We won't go into all of those details, but I just want to let you know that that is possible. Anything that you can possibly think of, it probably has an integration in Zapier, which means that you can tie it into other systems, which is just crazy.
Yep. Colleen also had a question here that I'll read for the room. What's the hardest thing to learn doing Zapier? Where should we start? Hunter, I'll give an answer, and then I think I'd love your opinion too. So, which by the way, guys, I'm going to brag about Hunter. He is Zapier extraordinaire. He is even in the early. He's one of the beta testers for Zapier. That's how much they love him over there. So,
super nerdy.
One of the things I think the hardest things to know about Zapier is, like we said in the earlier slides, just be really organized before you even attempt to create a Zap. Knowing exactly every single step for a process and having that really organized makes doing Zapier a lot easier. What we'll see, so like a quick example, as you can see here on the right, Zapier denotes the difference between drafting an email and sending an email. We've talked to people before where they go, well, the Zap's not working or it's broken or whatever. And you look under the hood and we find out that there's a draft email missing step. They just went directly to sending the email. So again, I think the hardest thing about learning the platform is just making sure that you're organized as far as what all the steps in your manual process are laid out before you even attempt to go to Zapier. I'm curious what your answer would be there.
Yeah, without giving, I have signed some NDAs, but I will say some little inside baseball is one of the biggest challenges that Zapier has is not the power of it. It's kind of like Salesforce where it's so powerful. But getting that first Zap, they call them Zaps, getting that first one under your belt is the hardest. And the only way to really think and learn how to do it is to just think of a problem and try to solve it. And you're like, well, I don't know a problem. That's where you ask ChatGPT. But for us, like a quick example would be if someone fills out our form on our website, I want the person to get an email immediately just thanking them. That's a really easy way that you can do it. That's how most people start. If you have Slack like us or Microsoft Teams, that's a good one to try out. Of course, if you have Calendly or if you have Google Calendar integration or any sort of calendar, you can have it where when someone books on your calendar, so the first one to trigger is calendar, the next one is send them an email thanking them. It's just very simple because you can get more nuanced after that. But once you have that first one under your belt and you go, okay, so like I see how it's integrating, then you can get more complicated. Like the one that Jordan's showing is a 10-point system. That's not everybody. You just need to just figure out the one thing that's really tedious that can really help you or your team, and then just go from there. It's actually just knowing which one to start with is the hardest part, at least from my perspective.
Yeah. Another good example would be like the one that we have set up is after a new user signs up for our own app, then they get a welcome email that just welcomes them. Really
Yeah.
simple. One step. So
Jordan and I
uh,
are the entire sales team, marketing team, everything, customer service. We do a lot of zaps. Use a lot of AI.
we have a lot running, a lot running.
Yep.
Um, okay. Is there any other questions on Zap? We will do more Q&A at the end, but any other questions on Zapier before we move on to the next tool?
Yeah. Tying it all together is amazing. This is usually where minds are blown. So take a screenshot if you can.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's move on here. So yep, we talked about this a bit already. Start with the end in mind. Just know where you're trying to end up and then work backwards from there. This is usually
Yeah.
the best way to go.
Yeah. I want an email sent to all my customers from when they sign up. Then you work backwards. Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going to get into the weeds a little more with one of our other favorite tools here. So we're going to talk about Clay here. So Clay is an AI enrichment tool, which is probably the most powerful, dare I say powerful, if not one of the most powerful AI tools out there right now. So essentially what Clay will do is it'll enrich prospects and leads for you. It'll find and enrich prospects and leads for you, and then let you start a workflow directly from Clay. So I know that sounds like a lot, but we'll start with two examples. So one is, say you're a business owner, an exec, whoever, I'm sure we're all sort of in the same case here, looking for more prospects, more leads. You log into Clay, and as you can see here on the left, what you then do is you just give it the parameters of the type of people that you're looking for. So maybe what job titles to include, what job titles to exclude, maybe the companies, maybe the locations, maybe the size of the company, maybe any keywords associated with that company, and any other specific information in between. You give that to Clay, and then Clay will then begin to run an enrichment for you and to give you all of their contact information. So as you can see here on the left, we started with just the parameters that we wanted. And on the right, we got spit out actual names of these people. We got their LinkedIns, we got phone numbers, we got domains, and Clay will also give you emails. It'll give you addresses, it'll give you personal email addresses, and any other information in between that you can ask for. So it's extremely powerful for building a lead list essentially from zero. What's also really nice is if you have an existing list, you can upload that to Clay and you can enrich that. So for example, I think we're all here, we all go to shows, and we have all these lists that we're looking to maybe do business with ahead of the show, or maybe make sure we find all the context that we need, make sure that we can meet this person or that person. It's really hard maybe to find their contact information. Well, when we take that list and then we upload it into Clay, it'll give us all that information. So it'll give us their name, their email, etc. And then in that list, we can then begin contacting them. We can begin emailing them. We can begin even writing personalized messages to all these people from the available list that was already public facing. So Clay gets extremely powerful for AI enrichment in prospecting in this sort of case. So I'm going to pause there for a second if there's any other questions about this, which I'm sure there will be. Okay,
I know the number one question we get on this is about privacy and just where's this data? It actually is GDPR compliant. I have no idea how that's possible, but it actually is. So I think it's just scraping like publicly available data. I could be wrong on that though, but it's amazing. One other thing too, while we're waiting on any questions on that, they have AI cells that you can have. Think of it like a Google sheet or an Excel sheet, you can have a column that's just as basically like write an email about this person. And we just did this last week, which is why I know. And it can write the emails for you, which is just so nice because then when you're prospecting, you can just copy and paste, copy and paste. So nice.
Yeah. Instead of a generic sort of blast email, it's contextual to who that person is, which is really, really nice.
We're living in sci-fi land. It's amazing what these tools are able to do now. I put it in the chat. This is if anybody's ever used Apollo, it's a lot like Apollo Zoom Info. It's very similar, but Clay I found is actually just the most user friendly, intuitive. Let me just give me the LinkedIn's and it just gives you the LinkedIn's. Give me the phone numbers, it gives you the phone numbers. It's not very complicated.
Yeah, it's really incredible.
Awesome.
Okay, any questions about Clay before we go on to the next tool? I'll give it another 10 seconds before we move on here.
Temperature check. Hopefully everyone's getting some value here. If you have any other questions, any other concerns, please let us know.
Yep. Okay, great. We will move on to the next tool. Okay, RB2B. So I'm sure everybody here has a website for their business. If not, maybe that's a separate conversation to have. But we're going to assume everybody here has a website. So I'm sure also, likewise, everybody has some sort of analytics set up on their website. Maybe it gives you a high level traffic. Hey, we're getting traffic from this region or maybe from that region. But all that traffic's anonymous. Now, what our B2B does here is it turns that web track into actual data that you can then, use to contact these people or reach out to these leads visiting your website. So it's really easy to set up. It takes less than 5 minutes to set up and add to your website. But what it will do is it'll take that anonymous data. So there's people who are on your website. It'll then figure out who that person actually is and then dump that to you in some sort of, channel. So like Hunter mentioned, we use Slack. So then this dumps into a Slack feed for us of who these people are actively visiting our website. And what's great about this is then we can reach out. We know, exactly what page they're looking at. So we can see here, Marianne here was looking at one of our Zoom meme pages. So we know exactly what page she's looking at, and then we can reach out contextually and say, hey, look, we know you're looking at this or maybe interested in this, and we can write an email or do a call based on what we just chatted, what she was interested in and what she wanted to chat about, which is really cool. So all this is hyper contextual to the exact person that is coming to the website. So it takes that anonymous data, turns it into a real person that you can then contact and take action on. So,
All right, bonus points time. Where do you think we're going with this? Bonus points. What other tool can you use with this to automatically email this prospect, call this prospect, do whatever you want with this prospect within seconds? Can anybody think of any tool on the planet that can help with that?
any ideas in the Q&A there? Let's see.
Happy. Colleague, yes, exactly.
You guys are
So,
on the money.
so real example, this happened to me 2 weeks ago. Someone came in through our B2B from our website. I clicked on his LinkedIn, so he got the notification that someone was looking at his profile. I had Zapier send it to Clay, which Clay can enrich the information. Clay found the phone number. I called the guy within 5 minutes, and he said, "Yeah, I need it for my event next week." This was a Friday. He needed it by Thursday. I said, "Okay, Backtrack's $500 a user. That's like what, like $1,000. Maybe we'll cut you a deal." He goes, "Oh, no, no. I need it for 200 people." 200 people, right? Because he was the organizer. So this one tool, I think it's maybe $20 a month. This one tool that took us about 15 minutes to set up. Yes, it's GDPR compliant. Again, I have no idea how it's possible, but it is. This one tool helped us secure an over $40,000 deal only because we just set it up. There was no effort on our end. It was just picking up the phone and calling them. That's why Zapier is really important. But all these tools combined, if you can notice, getting like Jordan was talking about, like getting the chat GPT to write the email for you, using Zapier to automate getting that information for you, using Clay to enrich the information, writing the email for you, sending the information, the follow-ups, all of it is completely automated with this. It's insane.
Yeah. Or like to Hunter's point, to take this Zap one step further, something that the additional step in our Zap that we run is once this anonymous traffic comes in, then we enrich them, and then we'll have the Zap put that person into our CRM as well. And then from there, if they don't pick up on the initial call like when Hunter did, then they'll get a series of emails and calls and cadences and things like that. So within with zero effort, basically, these anonymous people are getting turned into real folks who are then getting emails, calls, and etc. Um, from our sales team, and that's all automated, which is really cool. So,
Isn't
um,
it?
go ahead.
It blows my, I mean, we've had it set up for like years now, and it still blows my mind that it's even possible. It's insane.
Really cool. Really,
Kind
really
of
neat.
scary, I get it, but it's really cool.
Yep. Cool. So we're gonna finish up through the last few slides, and then I know we want to leave some time for Q&A there. So again, here's some of just our quick example AI workflows. New user onboarding emails, custom profile photos for our users, adding people to an email sequence, meeting note taking, many more. Many AI use cases in our business. Cool. And then here's just a quick sort of resources slide. If you want to screenshot this, this is just, we didn't cover all these tools today, but these are some of our favorite AI tools that we just generally recommend to folks. And then last thing before we get into Q&A, if you want more information from us, we'll leave this up for a second. You can scan this QR code, fill out a form, and drop your information in there. And if you want to talk more AI offline, anything in between, feel free to fill it out. It goes to both Hunter and I. You can get our contact information there as well. So we will leave this up. But on that note, I know we wanted to leave about 15 minutes for Q&A, so we'll leave this QR code up, and please feel free to drop your Q&A questions in the chat, and Hunter and I will answer them. So if there's any workflows that you want to see, anything that you're debating internally, any of the AI tools that you want to hear about or that you've heard about, feel free to put them in the Q&A, and we will go over them.
And this just fires me up, man. This is just,
It's really cool.
it's just so cool what's available nowadays. It
Living
just
in,
keeps getting better.
yeah, the rate at which it's changing is just so quick, so
Yeah,
quick.
and we left off a lot here. We did was Jim asked us to really narrow it down to the best that we get the most for this audience, the most bang for your buck. There's a lot more where that came from. So if you have any other questions, please let us know. You can shoot us an email too.
Yeah.
Uh, ChatGPT versus Gemini. I haven't used Gemini that often, but I'm assuming that they're all pretty much the same. I have touched with Gemini, but I don't know the nuances like I do ChatGPT. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that one. Copilot is another big popular one. But thank you, Mel, for the question. Unless Jordan, you have a lot more experience in Gemini
No, I find that GPT is probably the best one.
for us anyway.
Experience when we were trying Copilot and Gemini, they give some like strange, uncontextual answers. GPT I find to be the most hyper contextual. So
Plus, we curate ours. So if anybody's using ChatGPT, not that this is the question, you can actually go into the settings and just go into the memory and you can update the memory. So that's something that we care about. And then, of course, there's like the disappearing mode. So it has some features, but man, Gemini is catching up super fast. Oh my gosh, they just got accepted to the beta last week and I haven't tested it yet for some of the new stuff coming out. It's amazing.
one thing I will say that's nice about Gemini, not necessarily on the chat functionality, but we use Google Meet internally for our meetings, and Gemini will now auto transcribe, caption, and do anything of that nature for the meetings itself. So from that aspect, I use Gemini a decent amount, and I find that to actually be useful. But as far as the day-to-day LLM goes, GPT is the way to go.
Yeah, one final thought. I know we're running low on time. I did see that they're integrating with like Google Sheets, so you can actually start to. That's the beta I got accepted into, where you can start to have like instead of having a formula, you can just tell Gemini like add the things together, add this row together, or do this special thing, and it'll just do it for you. Write this email for me, and these tools are just amazing, amazing. Well, great. Jim, did you have any questions for us?
No,
Anything you
no questions, guys. Great presentation, very informative. Picked up a couple of ideas just from the time that we've had together, and excited to try that out. Just everybody else that's listening in, this session is being recorded. I will make sure to have it posted to the EACA website. So if there are other people on your team that didn't get to listen in and would like to, then I will make sure that it's there for you, and I'll send out a notice when that happens.
Colleen, thank you.